Hi, welcome to 5 Minutes of Torah with the BI Rabbi. I'm Rabbi Adam Stein, your BI Rabbi for the day, and back from a trip to Australia last week for about 6 days. Very short trip for a very long plane ride. My wife Tamar and I were in Australia visiting our friends from back there from when we lived there for a while. I even stopped in China for about half a day, and that was very, very interesting. I found myself in Tiananmen Square. I have pictures of myself there now. And fascinating place to be, even if only for a brief bit of time. But it got me thinking about the various rules and cultures that different cultures, norms and things that different cultures live by. There are different norms and rules in China than we're used to. Driving on the other side of the road in Australia, I was used to that before, but now I'm not, so it was tough to get used to again, even being a passenger, just walking across the street. And even here, for example, or in various places, just writing down the date. It's confusing. Do I write the date first or the month first? It's different in the U.S. and Australia and England. I found out that here in Canada, when I moved here, it's just a big mess because some people do it one way and some people do it the other way. The other reason I'm thinking about norms and rules and laws is that we've come to Parashat Yitro, one of two Torah portions in the weekly readings throughout the year in which the Ten Commandments appear and are read publicly. So first of all, I'll mention the Hebrew phrase for Ten Commandments, Aseret HaDibrot. It actually doesn't translate so well to Ten Commandments. Better would be the 10 pronouncements or the 10 utterances. But they've come to be known as the Ten Commandments in the English-speaking world and become very famous well beyond the Jewish world, but in the Christian world they're very important, and really any place around the world where Christianity has had an influence, and those are many, many places throughout the past 2,000 years or so of history. So one side note I want to mention about the Ten Commandments and their importance in Judaism, in Jewish practice, is that we've actually had a mixed history with the importance of the Ten Commandments. There was a time when the Ten Commandments were recited daily in our morning shacharit prayers. But it was actually taken out by our sages because they feared that it would be seen as the Ten Commandments would be seen as more important than the rest of the Ten Commandments. We have 613 commandments, and they didn't want these to be seen on a pedestal above and beyond the rest of them. There is even a section in the Talmud, in the Babylonian Talmud, a tractate called Brachot, around chapter 12, and says the sages in the temple, the priests in the temple, would recite the Ten Commandments and sections of the Shema, the 1, 2, 3 paragraphs of the Shema, some other texts that we do now, part of the Amidah that we know of, and the priestly benediction. So in the temple they were doing this 2,000 years ago. And then Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, they're always quoting each other, even in the outlying areas outside of the temple, they would try to recite the Ten Commandments in this manner every day. Because they're the basis of the Torah, Rambam tells us, Maimonides. But they had already abolished, the Talmud says, the recitation of the Ten Commandments because of the grievance of the heretics. That's what the Talmud says, the grievance of the heretics. These were probably people, maybe Karaites, maybe Jews or people connected to Jews who were trying to say, they were arguing that the entire Torah, says the Talmud, with the exception of the Ten Commandments, did not emanate from God. That was the claim of the heretics, according to the Jerusalem Talmud. So if the Ten Commandments were recited daily, it would lend credence to the claim of the heretics. So the recitation, for that reason, was expunged from the daily prayers. And even in the Talmud, various rabbis try to reinstitute this daily recitation. Their rabbinic colleagues shut them down because they said we abolish this practice for good reason. So what's interesting, I think, about the Ten Commandments is that, and I don't have time to go into this here in detail because this is 5 minutes of Torah, not 15 minutes of Torah, but actually different traditions, Judaism, Christianity, even sects or denominations within Christianity have different ordering or divisions of the Ten Commandments. The order isn't different, but the way we divide them up to which one is actually the third, which one is the first, and if you get out of order, you even end up with different ones for the 8th and 9th. And sort of the 10th, and it's very interesting to look at a chart about how they match up. But the fascinating thing for me, though, is that in the end, even though we've struggled with the degree to which we should prioritize the Ten Commandments in our tradition and our prayers, and even though we don't agree with the Christian faith about the division of the 10, and they don't even agree amongst themselves, Catholic, Protestant, Greek Orthodox, they still hold a prominent place of honor within our traditions. And in general culture, in many societies because they describe the basic tenets of faith and behavior. The Sabbath, honoring parents, refraining from stealing, murder, adultery, and even jealousy. And centrally, towards the top of the 10, probably key to their importance early on, is that they help us differentiate ourselves from the many pagan polytheistic faiths that abounded in the ancient world, and to say proudly that we believe in one God, one deity, one creator, and that many people have many gods, but we only have one. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai is our God, and Adonai Echad, Adonai is one. Shabbat Shalom.